Well, I'm back, guys. James hates everything, and today is another Saturday night live stream. And as you all know, I spent the last week in Sin City getting a look at all the amazing new technology heading our way in the next year and beyond. And tonight, we are going to talk about it. That's right. I just flew back from CES 2025, and boy, are my arms tired. All right, guys. Before we get started, I want to take a moment just to thank everybody that's dropped by early and in the chat. So, first up, of course, we have Julio Hernandez, who I am happy to see right away, first out of the gate. We got Calvin Wong. We got Mike Hawkhurts. We got Brooklyn Menace. Cheers, brother. Can't wait to see this cornhole game you're going to be streaming later. We got the Cornercade. We've got console kits talking about AWS and Azure for some reason. We've got Sergeant Giratina. Nice to see you, my friend. And of course, moderator extraordinaire, grade A, 5-star Michelin winning moderator, Jason Lil Alien, who spends his spare time bouncing on the trampolines at Chuck E. Cheese. We got NASA Canes fan joining the members. Appreciate that, my friend. And he says, good evening to everyone. He wants a Star Wars XL and Moon Patrol XL. And of course, a dedicated Defender cab. Don't we all? And Ritual Dello, thanks for dropping by. Biggie's in the house. End of the line. How are you doing? The Fourth Horseman is here. Gramps Arcade. R Burger. Lots and lots of you guys. Empire Arcade, as I randomly click around. Darren Kane, everybody loves to see it when Darren drops by. He says, I think the pressing question is if you went to either the Bacchanal or the Wynn buffets, and the answer is neither. Adam says, welcome back. Appreciate that. Stock Shock says, James, did you place that $100 bet on red for me? Remember, if you won, send me the money. And if you didn't, this is the first time I've met you. There you go. So I did not, but I did place some bets and lost horribly. So let that be a lesson. B Kirby, thanks for dropping by. The Penny Arcade says it is cold, and he is very true. What an adventure getting out of Kansas City in the middle of an ice storm, or right at the beginning of an ice storm. What a nightmare. Thought I wasn't going to make it. They were saying the airport was going to be shut down all day Monday and all day Sunday. And the earliest I would be able to get out would be sometime Tuesday, which at that point to me was like, what would be the point in even going? But luckily, we made it out on the last flight out of Dodge, and I was able to make it to Vegas. So that was very fortunate. It was quite the adventure. I was posting some stuff all along to keep people updated on whether I was going to make it or not. So if you were participated in those chats and posts, I appreciate it. We got Paul Mindeman. Thank you. It's glad to be back. We've got Chris C., who is either playing with a yo-yo or saying hi. I don't know if he's doing Dunkin' tricks and all that fun stuff or just watching the stream. Either way, appreciate you being here. We got Gamer Fridge in the house. So let's just get into some of this stuff. I'm going to bring just a video up as I kind of blather on. Remember, this is an Ask Me Anything stream tonight. So anything you guys want to know about CES that you haven't seen covered, questions you might have about all the companies. Of course, tonight I will talk particularly about Neogeo, Unico, My Arcade. We're going to get into Stern a tiny bit, and of course, Iconic Arcade. Who doesn't want to talk about that? That is all the buzz coming out of CES. And then anything else you guys want to know about. So before we do that, me just get this little B-roll rolling. Hopefully you guys can still hear me while this is playing. But man, it was my first CES. It was quite crazy. I came in as a media guest, so I got access to some pre-events where, I put up a video. I think what was that Sunday, or maybe it was Monday morning for all the events from Sunday, where I showed some pretty crazy stuff. Everything from some robot dogs to a spoon that adds salt flavor to your meal, so you don't have to salt your meal. Pretty crazy things. And it was an interesting event to go to have this kind of like private showing of all these things. That's where I got a chance really to sit with Stern, talk to their CEO Seth Davis about their new Dungeons and Dragons table. We'll talk more about that later. Really fun. Made a few connections there in gaming hardware, and here's showing some of these things that were at the main show floor. You can see Raw Thrills in the background there. They had their couple VR machines. There's all these, of course, driving and flight sim stations all over the place. But of course, they capped off CES with the big keynote from NVIDIA. And, I was there with Officially Unofficial, who was kind enough to save me a seat in the arena because I was way back at the back of the line. But got to sit up there and watch Jensen Huang debut the 50 series graphics cards. And, certainly exciting. It's something we all were kind of anticipating would come out at this event and in their keynote. And they just came right out with it straight out, and then spent the next hour and a half to 2 hours talking about AI and all the great things they got going on there. So new public models and things like that. Of course, you guys know I dig all the AI stuff, so that was all super interesting to me. But more importantly is we've got an affordable high-end graphics card coming, that 5070 at about $550, going to give you 4090 performance. So again, it reminds me of the early 30 series releases where you got true giant jump in performance for a fraction of the cost. Very valid, great value for the dollar, as Nostalgia might say. So very cool, and I'm excited to get my hands on one of those in the future. I personally tend to upgrade my PC every other generation, so the 50 series is when I plan to do another upgrade. So very excited that, hey, we have an affordable one in addition to, of course, a knock your socks off 5090 at about $2,000. And not to mention a 5090 in a laptop, for crying out loud. I mean, that laptop has got to have some crazy cooling features, because I don't know how you keep that thing running with all that performance. But there you go. This was another great thing you just saw on the screen here, the B haptics. They have a couple different haptics vests that really were pretty impressive. The vest has 18 points of haptic feedback, I guess. So unlike the things from like Wooger, so the Wooger 3, which has, I think, like 6, maybe 8 with 2 on the back. This thing, it has sensors all over it. In addition, the B Haptics also produces a glove, so you can have some tactile feel. But even more impressive, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but I'll have a video on this coming up, was another company that's really, really early in their prototype phase for haptics. And it was one of these things that was like science fiction. They have this black gooish metal, liquid metal, I guess. The black goo has bits of metal in it. I don't know how else to describe it. And then they use liquid or electromagnets to excite the liquid, and it creates different textures based on how that those electromagnets are running through it. And I've got footage of the demo of this liquid, so you can see it moving. And that liquid is then inside the sensors in the glove. So as you see the glove, when I show that off in a future video, it's very rudimentary. It's not something like you're going to go out and buy tomorrow. But those little sensors then are excited. And now when you touch objects in VR, you can truly feel the texture. So if something's smooth, it will feel smooth. If it's brick, it will feel like you're running your hands across the brick. If it's other surfaces, you'll be able to feel those tiny imperfections and those tiny textures. And talk about realism and immersiveness. That's something that is crazy. And of course, these gloves were all loaded with sensors so that you could use those gloves without any kind of controller, of course, using various hand gestures and how you move them. They had a live demo there set up where you could manipulate different objects, play little games. So very impressive. If this thing, they're able to bring this down into a consumer scale to where they can get this thing out to people. Really cool, really, really neat. Um, but yeah, I mean, all that stuff was pretty crazy. All kinds of interesting things. And it looks like Joe Cade dropped by. Um, what Jason says, I can't wait until that moving floor I saw becomes available. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. KFB, thanks for dropping by, says, curious. I don't remember if you already said you're getting the media one-up stuff or no. So I'll mention it. I've already pre-ordered the Street Fighter Alpha 2 edition. I did the half down payment on that one. Obviously, we'll talk about this more. I got to go buy the iconic arcade suite, take a look at both of these cabs, and of course the secret project that Bobby Vu is working on. And I was impressed with them. There are things that need to be improved still, and have assurances that those are all going to be addressed by the time we get a final production model. They were both very much prototypes, so we'll talk about that as we get to that section of the show. And I have a poll for you when we get there, guys. So we will get to all that fun stuff. So let's just jump right into the first thing, which I know you guys are just absolutely dying to talk about. And that is the Neogeo and Unico stuff. So I did get a chance to sit and talk with Jay Mason from Unico. They had a small booth out there at the show where they were showing a bunch of their products. So they had a bunch of the Neocade line of retro consoles. So, I show a couple here, like the Genesis version. They have the Game Boy version. They also had some of their global match products out there. One thing I can say, like I played a little bit of the Game Boy, and I have mixed for the small amount of time I had with it. I have some mixed opinions of it. I think the screen is absolutely beautiful. It really is a bright, vibrant screen that looks really great, especially compared to some of the other handhelds. Like I'll say it was probably better screen than any of the Ambernic devices I have. It was really, really bright and colorful. Having said that, it's very light. So it doesn't feel quality. So, that's one of the things feedback I would have for them is it needs to feel more substantial. If you're going to have one of these devices, it should feel like it's got some weight to it, that there's some quality behind it. It is super light. And so, that's always going to make you feel like maybe the quality isn't there. They're much like Hyperkin devices. If you guys are familiar with Hyperkin that take actual cartridges. So these Neocade devices, you put the real cartridges in, it downloads the ROM from the cartridge so you can play your actual games on the device. It features saves. So if, example, you're playing a Pokemon Blue that the battery doesn't work anymore, well, you can still use the battery save features right on the device, just like you would do normally in game. It will save it on the device. It also features save states. So typical things you would expect from a modern retro device, it does have the features on there. So if those devices are kind of in your wheelhouse, hey, I recommend just taking a look at them, maybe watching some future reviews on those. Of course, you can kind of see it sticking out of that Genesis in this picture, but they're also producing a line of carts, and this particular cart for the Neocade was Pico games that will play off this system. But again, any Genesis Mega Drive will play on that. On the Game Boy, it features Game Boy, Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy Color, all that stuff will play right on there. So interesting if that's your thing. Um, they didn't have the Nova Blast there. The booth really wasn't big enough for that. It would have been a haul to get it out there. But they did have something new that I've been asked not to tell you about, other than to say whether I liked it or thought it was cool or not. I think it's something that may be more interesting to people than some of these other like global match devices and stuff. So I'll leave it there. For me, it's more nostalgic. It's something that's more along the lines of something I would enjoy. I don't know that it's differentiating enough from some of the other things Unico has already produced, but it played really well. I couldn't detect any latency in the games that I was playing. So I really enjoyed playing it. Can't tell you what it is, but it's interesting, and it's something that I've kind of been asking for, and am glad they're doing it. And so here's some of that stuff. Let's see if we can advance this lovely slide here. And just a reminder, those guys, you think Unico, you might be thinking the Unico Pocket, which they did have there. You think the Neocade. Of course, I think most of you have probably seen P-Dub's reviews of Neocade. But just a reminder, one of the more interesting, as an AES Neo Geo fan myself, I used to have one as a kid. So these are a teenager, really. These are more nostalgic for me. This is a system I've really liked. And Unico actually made this device. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but this was kind of like our version in the Neo Geo space of a Neo Geo Mini. It was a handheld that came in a case that you could install the handheld in, still connect it to your TV. Came with basically the full size Neo Geo AES controller, and had 50 or so games preloaded on it, the Neo Geo Gold X. And that is a pretty popular device. It actually goes for quite a bit on the secondary market, and it was made by Unico. So I would love to see them do something like this again, like to have this kind of replica system of that AES. Wouldn't it be even better if they were able to take it into that Neocade space and make it so we could plug in real AES carts, real MVS carts? Man, that's something that, hey, Jay, if you're listening, that's a device nobody's doing. And we would probably buy hands down something that would take those original carts from both the arcade and the AES system and allow us to play them on our home TVs or whatever. That would be fire. So that's just my 2 cents. I did want to share with you because I actually didn't know that Unico actually made this until talking to Jay. So I wanted to share that with you because this is a device I know that's been pretty popular out there when it came out, and still kicks around the AES community. He says, "Are you sure Unico made the Neo Geo X?" And yes, I am sure. So it was done under the name Blaze. Yep. Which is eventually sold to the company that today makes the Evercade. But it is definitely Unico. You can go out and do a quick search. You will find that confirmation. Let's see here. Julio Hernandez. Um, so I hope I didn't miss any questions here. Just gonna scan through real quick. Uh, um, oh, I'm familiar. It wasn't great. So I never actually played this one. So there you go. Looked cool. Yes, it does look cool. I've never actually played it. So I'll have to go back and watch some reviews before I actually buy one. Okay. So next up, I'm sure this is everybody's favorite. I know it's a couple guys' favorite. The My Arcade, right? So I did get a chance to spend some time with at the My Arcade booth. In fact, one of the frustrating things is I was probably one of the first person through the door, got in early to get a look at all these My Arcade devices. So I got all the footage shot, tried to upload all those shorts, which have been now out there now for several days. But they didn't upload very fast because I should have went outside and let them upload, but teach their own. But I will say, damn, I was impressed by some of these. Some of these are what you expect from My Arcade, cheap little devices, but some of these really, really blew me away. So the Retro Game Station Pro, which is this right below me, the mobile version, or the Game Station Pro Go, or whatever they call it, that thing is giant. It's easily as big as my hand from top to bottom. The thing is huge. So I don't know how comfortable it'll be able to play this long term, being with such a big device. But it is substantial. It's not one of these tiny little things that My Arcade has done in the past. So it was pretty exciting to see something that big with that big of a screen. Very, very cool. What wasn't too cool, and well, I'll segue first. Then we have the Game Station Pro console, which is over here in the corner, straight down, where it comes with two of the little, basic controllers with a D-pad. It's got the spinner just to the lower right of the D-pad. You got the 4 buttons and then the shoulder buttons. It's okay. I think probably that's the best controller you can have for this. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Obviously, this device is loaded with games from Namco, Capcom, and what's not advertised is it's also loaded with games from Pico and another company, which I'm drawing a blank on right at the moment. I would say about half the ROMs, which are close to 200, I believe, half the of games on this thing, or maybe it was 100. I think it's 200 though. About half are arcade games, so that's positive. The other half being various console games, but a lot of arcade ROMs. And I look for that list soon. I do have that list, and it'll be on a full My Arcade video at a future date. But that's pretty cool. But really, if you're going to get this thing, you're going to play those arcades, because obviously they're pushing Street Fighter hard on this one. You want the arcade stick, right? And that's what is directly below me. Now, the picture in this picture that I swiped off the internet a little before going live is reversed, so it's backwards. So you got to try to, in your mind, flip that a little bit, where the black buttons, the blue and red and white, they're on your right. But that spinner, huge spinner directly below the joystick is not in a good place. It's goofy. I don't know how you can play some of these fighters with that spinner there. It's in a better position if you go over and you see the up here over this direction, right? You see the arcade version of the Game Station Pro, where that spinner is between the joystick and the buttons. That's doable, right? Because that's not really in the way. But the one where it's where your palm would be while you're playing, absolutely unplayable. That joystick should just be thrown in the trash. The big Atari joystick, they should use instead of this thing. This thing is garbage the way it's laid out. I don't know how you can play it. So my recommendation, if you're going to bite on this console, is stick with the basic console controllers, because that arcade stick is gotta go. It's just trash. NASA Kane's fan dropped in, says, I like the Game Station Pro. I'm looking for a pole position with a better spinner. Yeah, appreciate that comment. And let's see here. What do we got going on? Not only do I appreciate it, but so does Pete. So thank you, NASA Canes fan. And yeah, I think the most impressive thing about the Game Station Pro is how many licensed games come on these. It's an it's a huge amount. So that is a really decent deal out there. I don't think there's any one of these mini or consoles that comes with so many titles. But don't be fooled. It's not all Namco and Capcom. So don't expect two libraries of 100 and 100 or 50 and a 50. They've got filler on there with those Pico games and the other company of which I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head. Both are not exactly what you're going to consider like, oh, I really love those arcade games. They're definitely filler arcade games, but they do have some decent titles in that area. But again, a lot of games for the money. Then you've got the one that is directly next to me, right down here, which is that I can't super retro, my super retro console. And of course, this is something they've debuted 3 or 4 times at CES. Then it went away last year and now it's back. Hopefully, now it's closer to actual development and it takes both Super Nintendo and Super Famicom cartridges, both in the top and the bottom. And so it's actually kind of pretty cool. It's got, again, another giant screen. It's a beefy handheld, so it's going to have some weight to it. So I don't know exactly how comfortable it is to play, but it's certainly cool and interesting to me. So that's one I may take a much closer look at when if it actually comes to fruition. Then of course we've got this stuff up here, which is more Pac-Man. So who cares? But there's more Pac-Man. And then all the way over there, you think I'd get this down by now. All the way on the end is the Balls of Steel virtual arc pinball machine or table. I guess it's not really a machine if it's virtual, right? That's got to get that down. I got lectured about that quite a bit. So the virtual pinball Balls of Steel, which I think comes with eight or 10 I'll say exclusive, but they're not exclusive because they come on some of these other Atari systems from my arcade. But they are built for this, so you can play those unique Atari themed pinball tables. If you guys have ever played video pinball on Atari 2600, they're only mildly improved from that pinball game. So probably not something for me. The buttons are in a weird place. Of course, this wasn't a functioning machine. It was stickered all over it. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's probably coming out, maybe. I mean, a lot of this stuff with my arcade, you have to kind of take with a grain of salt. They target these for fourth quarter release dates, but we all saw the Atari Mega their version of the countercade for Atari. They showed it again this year. It hasn't been released yet, but now it's got a whole bunch of accessories and things. So maybe it'll actually come out. Maybe this pinball will come out. Who knows? But it's their entrance into video pinball. Now, one company I didn't show in this slide deck because I didn't know or think anybody would care. But once again, back at CES for the numerous time in a row to share their video pinball machines was Toy Shock. So they had a pretty large booth not too far from where Stern and my arcade was, and they had all their video pinball machines out. They're the same ones you've seen for years that have been released for years. Not sure why they continue to go to bring those, but hey, they were there. If you've seen one, you've seen them. They're pretty interesting. I don't know if they sell them at all in the United States, but there you go. Toy Shock was in the house. So, I know Paul's like, man, that's awesome. Toy Shock was there. Oh, gotta have them. Jason says, here's the list of the tables, right? Dark Side, Barbarian Firestorm, Mutation, Devil's Island, Centipede, and Missile Command. So, and they're not horrible, but they're by no means anywhere near what we expect of virtual pinball. Like when you think Zen, when you think Magic Pixel, these aren't even close. They are very much bare bones virtual pinball. So Joe Kate says, Paul, why the negative Nancy mood? And he says, yeah, I need a little less to be a little less transparent. Nick Gamer, how are you? I am doing well. And Big B says, this junk over Anbernick. Yes, and no DMD. That's it's unclear if it will actually have a DMD or not, because it was just a sticker on the back. So that may be it, or they may put a DMD on there. But like you said, I extremely doubt it. My guess is this thing's meant to be like $50. And so you'll get the one screen. So let's jump over to the next one. And this is a bigger one, right? And I must have these a little out of order, but we're talking Stern, right? The Dungeons and Dragons. This, I tell you, I played a lot of this over the last several days, and it's one that I think this has got to be one of my favorite pinball machines. Yes, I said machine. Hey, give me points for all this the pinball guys out there. I'm not a big pinball guy. I like some of the tables. I've had fun playing some of the tables, but really the D&D part of this is really cool. So I had a ton of fun, progressing through the story, saving the miners, fighting off different beasts. There's just a ton of things you can do, and it saves your character. So I was able to acquire like all kinds of new weapons and things that my character's wearing. It's really, really fun. I was surprised, and it's really interactive. So when you're doing the battles, you have the monster there, and you're doing all these things and rolling to do it. You can do everything you think can happen in D&D happens. So you could defeat it. It could defeat you. You can run away. It can run away. I mean, it's really kind of cool how they pull all these different things off when you do battles. So it's very immersive. I'm not really a big D&D fan, but I do like RPGs, and of course that RPG element throughout this thing is really cool. It has a shop, where you can go buy different items. Of course, that shop refreshes every week with new items. Also, the dungeon that you can enter refreshes its map, strategic or procedurally generated, redraws itself every week. So very cool, like some of the little features there. But the dragon, right? We got to talk about the dragon in this. It is really amazing. And when you get that multi-ball and that play field is just going nuts with balls, he's shooting them, trying to drain them to defeat you. You're batting them back, and you get like, I don't know, 6, 8 balls going on that thing at the same time. It's pure chaos, and it's a ton of fun. All the while he's screaming at you, talking smack. The voice acting on it's phenomenal. It is really a ton of fun. So it's probably the one pinball I say, like, the game itself around the pinball. So forget the pinball aspects. A lot of people like certain pinball a ton, but the actual game code, the gameplay is just a blast, right? I didn't care how hard some of the different shots were. I was just having fun playing the RPG elements of this game, of traveling across the map, accomplishing different tasks. And it remembers, right? So if you defeat, like your first mission essentially on the story is to go rescue these miners. And if you defeat that, the next time you start, it knows you've already beaten that, and you can bypass it and go straight to number 2, right? What's the next adventure on this quest? So you can play through that entire quest, or you can, do it however you want. It's your story as you progress. And of course, the co-op aspects of this, where you can go adventuring with up to 4 people as you play on this table, just really, really cool aspects. And I can't wait to see this actually get out into the field and to go someplace and play it with a few of my friends that are big D&D fans, to see what they think about it and to get direct input from the hardcore D&D audience, because I thought this was a blast, and it's definitely my favorite pinball machine that not only Stern has released, but probably that's been made. And I don't know, and that's not just because it's new, it's because it's truly more like a video game that has pinball with it. So it's very fun. And yeah, Charlie Check says 8 pinballs. So there you go. So let's see here. I got, just more pictures of the table and the play field. It looks great. So the art on it, I think this is the first table in a long time that's not kind of that same artist that they've used. They actually went and got a guy that's a D&D artist to do the art. And so all through the table, it looks close. It honestly, the pictures don't do it justice. When you see it in person, that art is rich. It's got a lot of depth to it. And it looks and feels like D&D. The bright colors on here make it look kind of cartoony. It is not cartoony. It is that kind of painting art style that you expect from D&D, and it looks fantastic. Adam says the playfield needs to be patented by Stern. Well, they're definitely patenting the dragon. It's currently in the process right now. Of course, it's a mech that moves side to side, up and down, spits out those balls. It talks throughout the whole thing. It's the central character while you're playing. You are battling that dragon, and it's really fun, like throughout the whole thing. And I imagine when you get to the end, that's one of the things you have to fight or whatever. But it's really interactive, and I really dug it. Yeah, he says this pinball is a grand slam, and it really was. Jason says, how do you get a D&D player to go out with you? you ask them for a D8. Ha 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 ha. Jason's got the jokes. Would it be better as a virtual table? I don't know. I mean, because so much of this incorporates the DMD screen as you play, you're really getting a lot of that. And where I think, sure, you could do in a virtual table more animated characters and things like that. They've really engaged the mechs in this. So that dragon is just moving all over the place. It's very cool to see a real object moving. And so, like I said, I enjoyed it. I played the hell out of it. I spent, the last day I was there, quite a bit of time just playing it over and over, and trying to progress through the story and everything. And it's impressive. I enjoyed it quite a bit. All right, let's get on to the meat. Let's get what we're all really excited and here to talk about, I think. And that is the iconic arcade, a media one-up, John D. joint. You guys have seen and talked about this to death, but we're going to talk about some more. Of course, I got to spend quite a bit of time with these, playing these, talking and asking questions of John D. I met with the principals of Iconic Arcade who were there at the same time, talked with them. So I want to know what you guys want to know. What has nobody told you? And all these streams you watched, what do you actually want to know about this? Of course, we know the basics. It's that larger XXL size. I can tell you with my shoes on, the top of the cab literally comes right at my eye line, so I cannot see over it. I can see directly at it. So it's a good size. It definitely gives you the feel of you're playing a full size, even though it's just a little bit under a full size. I did not experience any wobble when I played it. I know some of the streams showed people going ham and it wobbling. It did not wobble for me. I don't know if I play it as aggressively as other people. But those were kind of my first impressions of the quality of the build. Again, it was just straight up a prototype. It's not going to be exactly the same when we get the final version. This was something that they obviously had to get built for CES, the big debut, so they could launch the pre-orders all at the same time and get something out there for us. So there's lots of things that are going to change. Mike Hawkhurt says, hopefully they have a GUI and we're not waiting for pre-sale funds to begin that process. So I'm at this point, they're well underway in that. It was not ready to be shown. So you don't see, we did not see what the interface will look like, but it is certainly already under development. They So they mentioned they have the features. They know what the features are going to be. We've kind of talked about some of those. So, you guys all know it has a Pi 5. So it's going to feature online play. It's going to feature HDMI out. So for streaming, that kicks butt, right? Finally, we can have some really good streaming content. We can have some tournaments that are easily shared and streamed. Did not hear if we were going to have spectate. I did not ask about it. That's on me. But obviously, with streaming, spectate becomes a lot easier because you can just stream the game out of one of the consoles to Twitch or YouTube or wherever. So even if it ultimately doesn't have spectate, you have that capability of doing those. So it's going to be really cool, I think. I really enjoyed getting a chance to see it. That Street Fighter Alpha 2, that's the edition I pre-ordered, looks beautiful in person. I mean, it's breathtaking. Realize it's not some original cab design because there really wasn't one for Street Fighter Alpha 2, but they took that iconic poster of Street Fighter Alpha and made a modern looking cabinet design by blowing that up on the side, and it just looks amazing in person, and it stands out. It looks every bit as though it was really in the arcades, and it's so eye-catching. It's fantastic. Let's see here. Working with several companies to release XXLs. Yeah, of course, we know there are other companies that Media One Up is working with, Unico being one of them. Penny Arcade says, I want to know if we should be looking forward to some games we've all been wanting from Media One Up. So again, this specific is from Iconic Arcade with consultation from Media One Up. Of course, you have the gameless list partially listed here. I think how many games we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so all 14 are listed there. Of course, there's a 15th for pre-ordering, Captain Commando. This is the first time in a home arcade we're going to get Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3, Street Fighter Third Strike. So I've got some new games. You've got Giga Wing 2 listed there, which I believe is up to 4 players. So potentially online play of up to 4 players simultaneously. I know there's been some questions about that. And I think there's a few more surprises in store down the line, right? That we probably can't fully talk about yet, but expect more things to come. And that's that's all I'm going to say about it. But really, really some interesting stuff that could potentially be happening with this particular device. Again, I know it's been mentioned, but both are the same. It's the same system, same games list. You're really, when you buy one of these, you're picking the design you like the best. And so, keep that in mind. I lose where I was. We've got a NASA Canes $10 super chat. So did they say if they will have a 3/4 scale or deluxe size cabs in the future? Just easier for me to be able to sit in an office chair and play them due to personal limitations. So as of this time, I believe these XXLs are all that is planned, but you never know how things go in the future. There's obviously licensing concerns. When you do various sizes, you have to, typically a company might get an exclusive license to a particular scale. So a 3/4 scale could be locked in currently by Arcade One Up, and you can't do it. John is trying to listen to what the community has been asking for a long time, which have been very vocal about XL near full scale size cabs. And so that's what he's going for, right? That more authentic arcade feel, better controls, more competition grade controls with hap clones and things like that. So, I would say depending on how sales go for these things, anything in the future is possible, right? But they are going to have some sort of success and prove the business model going forward, right? We know Arcade One Up sells millions of cabs, so if they can have success, who knows what's in store in the future? Certainly, Media One Up is trying to work with a lot of companies, and this is the first one out of the gate, of course, taking iArcade from that European and Canadian, uh, you know, multi-cade manufacturer and upping them, elevating them to now one of the most exciting players in the space just off of their relationship with John and what they've already done in collaboration. And the success of this cab will say a lot about the future, right? And so we'll just have to wait and see as we get closer. We're not far away. If they're going to start shipping these beginning in June, early June, we're 5-6 months out from having these things where we can play them. Of course, uh, what's been mentioned before is they're working with Spreetail as a distribution outlet. So that potentially means you're going to see these show up on websites like Amazon and Walmart and Target and all the other places, eBay, where you've seen Spreetail selling things. So outside of the pre-order window, you may get even more options to purchase these, and that will certainly be cool. And that's the benefit of working with Spreetail, somebody who's worked with John and Arcade One Up in the past. So again, working with what he knows works and what and has proven itself successful is a recipe that I think at least I can get behind, because I think we've seen it be successful. And if he can not make the mistakes Arcade One Up did and continue to deliver on what made Arcade One Up successful while staying away from the things that screwed Arcade One Up, this could be very, very cool. I missed a super chat from Joe Cade. Says, keep kicking ass, James. I appreciate that very much. Sorry I missed your super chat earlier. And let's see, what other questions do we have? So I'm going to actually take one moment and bring up something. So we were all kind of talking. We've all seen Michael B's comments, right? He hates the design of the Street Fighter II World Warrior, the one that is literally like right here, right? He does not like this design. He doesn't like the gravel. That gravel is what's on the control deck in front of you. It's what was on that design. He doesn't like the Street Fighter II logo going up the side. He doesn't care for this cab. So there's been lots of people throwing out suggestions, and we were all talking. And so I threw together a few mock-ups. So I know Michael B loves my mock-ups. He's a big fan of my ability to create mock-ups. He's always praising me. He really loves this stuff. So if you see him, let him know. I made a whole bunch more just for him. But here are 4 mock-ups. And as you guys are looking at those, I'm going to drop a poll in the chat. So these 4 mock-ups, and I got to move me out of the way here. So these 4 mock-ups are based on discussions we've had, ideas from other people on if we don't go with the way that was currently released, what are some other ways we can take that same kind of design, that same kind of spirit of taking that original design and making it more dynamic and more modern to really make the cab look more exciting. So we've kind of taken some inspiration from what has already been used on the cab or the designs that already exist, some of the historic designs of the cab. And so here you see 4 options. I want you to vote for your favorite. If your favorite is the one that is out there currently, just put like a 1 or something in the chat. Otherwise, click and vote on the one you want. Want to hear from you as to like which of these designs leans more the way you were thinking. So yeah, that's all I got to say. So tried to take again that spirit of what they were trying to do, really pump up that 90s kind of tribal or art design with the pinks and the purples and all that stuff to enhance that and reduce the gravel look, right? There's some of the gravel seems okay. It ties in the control panel. But I can even see a potentially a fifth design where it's all tribal and none of the gravel stuff. Obviously, we did the B there, which is the all black, which is more reminiscent of the actual cab with the black side and just that little poster. But let you guys continue to vote on that for a bit, and we'll circle back to that at the end of the show. And just wanted to gather your thoughts on those designs. So that's really most of everything I had to talk about. And just kind of want to hear from you guys. What are the other things that, especially about what Media One Up is doing, that you haven't heard anybody talk about that you want to know about? What questions do you still have out there? And if I have answers, I will share them with you. Jason says he likes the blend of pink and yellow and the larger full character, all of them. Ditch the gravel, indeed. And Charlie Chuck says, none, don't like iconic version, but it's better than these four, in my opinion. Appreciate that. Grandpa says, people are already putting money down on designs. They shouldn't change that now or there will be cancellations. I agree. That is a huge risk, Gramps. And in that, if there are people already buying this, and from the just polls I've seen in other chats where people or in other channels where people are asking which one do you want, it seems to be 2-1 are leading towards Street Fighter, but 2-1 still means like 30 to 40% of people want this hyper color version is what I'm going to call it, the Trapper Keeper version of Street Fighter in the World Warrior with that 90s vibe. And so it's a super popular look. And so what do you do with those people? Do you say, hey, we're going to change this? This is what the new design is. If you like it, you can keep your pre-order. If not, you can cancel or switch. I mean, what do you do with those? It certainly creates a problem in that trying to change the art after people are already placing orders. So on that front, if it were my business, I probably wouldn't consider changing. But if they are going to consider changing, we should help them decide what kind of design we actually might want more and might be more popular with the community than the one that's out there, right? And so that's kind of where I'm going with this, is to just throw alternatives out and see which, if any, even rise up to the level of that original design. And again, these would be just for inspirational purposes. Pete Kirby says, sorry, none of those options. The current one looks better than the original. The asphalt look on the cab that exists already looks better. There you go. So that's kind of stuff we want to hear. We want to be able to share that information, so that if you like the new one, and it sure seemed to me like a lot of people liked the new one. I know Michael B took a lot of heat from people that they like the current design. I like it myself. I just think some of the I think there's a lot of people that want that more 90s vibe of the purple and pink. So that's why we threw together some other mock-ups. But I do like the current design. I think it's very dynamic and modern, but again, capturing that nostalgic feel. Paul Mindeman says, if anything, we should be talking about adding Street Fighter 3 art instead of Alpha. And so very, very interesting comment, right? So I think we've heard people say that these may ship in waves. So could you see new art in the future? Possible, right? I wouldn't go around saying that that's definitely going to happen, and count on that happening, because we don't know that will happen. But it's certainly a possibility, right? You're seeing some of these games for the very first time in a home arcade. And I'm sure there are people that want all of that artwork, a version of each one of those that they can put in their arcade. For me, like I said, the Street Fighter Alpha is like just an iconic picture of, Akuma and Ryu. It's one that you always see. And so that's why that one speaks to me. I think that is just such dynamic and interesting artwork that on that cab, it looks really cool. And I've already planned on that being one of the in my home arcade will be the frontmost cab, because that's the one with the side art that I think really is going to look the coolest standing out. So I don't want to cover that art up. And so think about that when you're considering one of these. Is there one that stands out to you that you don't want to cover up, right? Because a lot of arcades, you put them in a row, you don't even see the side art. And so, are you planning to go that route, or are you planning just to bury it in line with a bunch of other arcades? So something to consider when talking about art and making the decision on the art. Maybe the front is more important than the side for you, or maybe the side is something you really want to showcase. Let's see. Fourth Horseman says, I want to have more ferns like at games. Of course, more ferns. Everybody needs more ferns. Now, let me ask you guys this. Again, something we were all talking about in a chat, which I found an interesting discussion, right? This skin setup really kind of, to me, feels a lot like the At Games 4KP business model, right? We're coming out with these two different skins for this cab. The insides are all the same, and you can just get the skin you like. On the At Games, they're doing the same thing with the 4KP. Here's the 4KP. They're all the same. Maybe they come with a couple preloaded games that are different than all the others, but pick the skin you like the best. And so that's caused a few people to maybe hold off on buying it because they're holding out for the one skin they want. But otherwise, I think it's an interesting business model because it allows you to have the design you want, but still get all the same things without having to buy a bunch of different ones. And so when we thought about that, we were talking about what if At Games did that with the ALU 4K? What if they decided, get away from that weird design they're going with, which is just rehashing the old ALU and putting a more squared top, but still allowing all the reuse of all the old accessories and stuff like that. Forget that. Throw it all in the trash. Do an ALU 4K that is a whole new design, but we can get in different skins that are modeled after the licensed games that we potentially can get on one of those ALUs. Is that something that would actually make you interested in getting an ALU 4K? Forget that weird KI purple art they tried to come up with, or that weird design. What if they actually went and made a more modern since these are 16:9, they went and modeled it after more modern 16:9 arcades, right? The ones you can go to an arcade and see today. And it looked more like that, but still had the retro and the 16:9 arcades on it, but then allowed you to pick a variety of skins for some of those classic games or even modern IPs you really like that are licensed on that. I think that's something that would actually interest me and convince me to buy an ALU 4K. As of right now, there will never be an ALU 4K in my house. Like, I think it looks ugly. I think the regular ALU looks ugly, and I love that people love it. It's not for me. It's mostly 4x3 games. Why do I want a 16:9 monitor? I appreciate everybody that likes it. Don't think I'm hating on it. It's just not for me. And the ALU 4K makes even less sense to me, because why would I need a 4K to play a bunch of retro games? It doesn't make any sense. But again, if it was then maybe sold as less of a retro multicade and more of a modern multicade, and it had that more modern design for, games that are, post 2000 arcade games, where suddenly it's like now it's a more modern arcade game where 16:9 makes more sense. Games like TMNT Shredder's Revenge, or that the TMNT Wrath of the Turtles. Like, there are so many more modern arcade games out there that they could mix in with the retro. And now suddenly it's not a retro multicade, it's a modern multicade that happens to do retro. Now it's way more interesting to me, especially if I can get it with more modern arcade skins and a design. But we don't even know if they'll even make it to where they can produce the ALU 4K. I'd be interested in what you guys think on that front as well. It's just something we were all bullshitting about, and it was I just thought really interesting. Um, yeah, and the company is a disaster. Yes. Cocker says it sets up perfectly for an online store since the processor probably will remain a Pi 5 for the lifetime of the iconic arcade. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Mike Hawkhurst. And I think we will hopefully see some sort of online content delivery system for these iconic arcades. We will have to wait and see for that to come to fruition. But, that's John has not been quiet in the past about that being his desire. He's mentioned multiple times in other streams. I'm speaking specifically of a interview he did with She Lion several years ago, where he ideated on his dream would be to produce a bunch of cabs that are, here's a Capcom cab, here's a Namco cab, here's a Data East cab, et cetera, et cetera. And each one of those comes with an array of titles, but then is also connected to a storefront where you could get the more obscure, the more niche titles that you're never going to see in a cab design and add them to that cab. So you would have this kind of catalog of publisher specific games. And, he said that's been one of his dreams. So it'd be great to see him take that dream and make it reality on these products. But we'll, have to wait and see if something like that comes about. I, for one, would be rooting for it because it expands the playability. We all know space is not unlimited. So the idea of continuing to buy, multiple versions of Street Fighter, multiple versions of Pac-Man, packing our homes with these things, eventually there's a stopping point. And so being able to have, 4 or 5 really cool designs from different companies, but still be able to continually add games to those would be a blast. And, again, I'm reminded of how the 4KP works. If you guys own a 4KP, who doesn't get excited by those near weekly releases of new tables? Like, it's an event, I think. It's so fun. Like, what is the new table coming out this week? And to be able to say, like, hey, here's a Capcom cab, and every week or every 2 weeks or something, have the opportunity to add another classic title to that system would be a blast. Again, don't know any of that will ever happen or not, but it would be fun for me. I think it's a blast. B Kirby, thanks again for the super chat, says, don't be surprised if that happens. And I will not be surprised because John has been vocal that was his desire when he worked back at Arcade 1-Up. So hopefully, some of these companies listen to him and actually he's able to do that. Whether that's Iconic Arcade or Unico or whoever, he also has to convince the licensors, Capcom to take a risk like that, Namco to take a risk like that, SNK, whoever, right? Whoever these companies are they work with. I just think it adds a ton of fun to be able to every week, hey, there's a new game coming out and we can all jump online and play together and challenge each other. Again, this is something that I think At Games has touched on in the 4KP. It's a smart rollout method. Unfortunately, there's not enough of those tables in people's hands. But with something like this, it would be fun. And again, with HDMI out, everybody's streaming and having a blast and playing each other. And there's a headphone jack on there. So what if there's some way we can all chat? You can actually talk smack to each other while you're playing. Whether that's on the system or not. Obviously, a Pi 5 can support that kind of functionality, but those things would be super cool and a whole lot of fun. Jason says, was wise to stick to HDMI and to generic zero delay encoder boards that you can do anything with. Yeah, absolutely. That's the other benefit of a system like this is you're open to all sorts of modding potential. And not difficult, right? The Pi 5 environment is hugely supported, so you could see a wide array of things come to that. Of course, with Foresight, there's a couple USB ports right up on the front. So if you need to add other controllers to expand multiplayer games, like if you have a 4-player game, maybe you can just plug in a couple more controllers and all 4 players can go. Or, you can hook up other devices, send in light guns, other things. Like it's a great platform that allows for a lot of versatility without a lot of specialized coding and effort, because the Pi 5 community is huge and it's fully supported all different kinds of projects and things. So it's very cool on that front. Um, let's see here. Devastator Omega says probably offer the ability to order custom site art for the artistically lacking of taste. Yeah, I mean, that's again with all of these arcade systems, there's a variety of companies that will produce, new marquees, new side art, new control panels, all that fun stuff. So there won't be any lack of people offering items to customize your cabs. Yeah, so I have not, King Ed, talked about the FU today, because mainly just talking about the stuff that was at CES. But you can count on me talking about that in a future stream. I'm very excited by what Glenn is doing there. I love that he's now providing the 26-inch option. I also love some of the stuff they've shown with the rotating screen and how you can use the a front plexi to cover that up. So I want to give Glenn his due on that and focus on that in a future stream/video, and not bury it in with a bunch of other stuff. So today we're just focusing on CES, but believe me, I am paying very close attention to the FU because it is cool and I want a Nintendo style cab in here and everything else. So I will be buying both of these products, and I know some people will buy one or the other. And hey, man, you just got to buy what you like. I still need to see more on the final weights and things of Glenn's, because that is concerning for me. I have to make a very sharp 90-degree turn to get a cab down into my basement. And I know he said they're going to flat pack the bottom part, but that top part concerns me. I don't know if I'll be able to get it actually down my stairs. So I'm having to wait to see that, because I don't want to hide it out in the garage or something. Then I'll probably never play it. I want it down in my arcade where I can play it every day with all my other stuff. So, but yeah, so stay tuned for a future thing on Glenn's, because I'm very excited for that. At Game's best chance of getting people reinterested in the KI ALU is to try to model it as a KI2 replica instead of the kindergarten art project they showed off initially. And I think you're not wrong there, but they've got do a lot of changing to get there. It's not just the side art, it's the shape of the cab, it's the width of the cab being 16:9. You're never going to get a good replica of KI2 with the shape that they're using. And again, I think it's got to have a slanted deck. Going out with these flat decks again just seems like they just hadn't learned anything. And I get why they did it. They made the decision of, we didn't want to leave in the dust all the other accessories we sold to people. And I appreciate that. Backwards compatibility is great, but at some point it's also not needed, right? They have that machine. If they have those accessories, they have that old machine. You can start fresh. You can make a new one. And yeah, I just don't know why you don't. Like, I think it would be smart. Maybe offer just some boards that people can uninstall the controls out of the old things and put it in. So it's much cheaper to change over. But I think you take the advantage of making a better looking cab with the kind of design that arcade games need, myself. But again, don't want to hate on people that like the ALU, because I know it's popular. It's just not for me. We're debating over such small details. Really, fact is, they pretty much nailed it. Couldn't agree more. There's a lot. I think the design looks great. There are a lot of things that need to be shown before I will say go buy one of these yourself, right? We need to see the UI. We We need to see the final controls in place. We need to see those controls dialed in. We need to see it working online. The things that we've been promised, we need to see before I will say you should go out and buy this. I'll put my money out there because to me it is close enough. But that's me and only me. And um, I'm confident in myself that they'll get to where they need to be that by the time it comes out. But this community, the history of this community about pre-ordering. I will say again, you know, my recommendation, if you're iffy that if you don't have a design you absolutely love and you haven't convinced yourself and you're still questioning, wait, and see these things that are still questions. They'll come out as they finish them and can present them. We'll see all these things, and hopefully that will help you make your decision. Worst thing I could do is to recommend you go buy one of these and then it get delayed or something else as we wait for it. So for me, there's enough there. I've played it. I've looked at it in person, even though it's a prototype. I think it looks beautiful. It's got the features, or it will have the features that I know I want. And so that was enough to convince me, but it's not enough for me to recommend it yet to anybody, right? To say, you should go out and get this right now. Not there. I won't be there until the cab is finished and we can actually see the final product, play the final product, ensure that it is everything we want it to be. So that's my piece on that. You know, my recommendation is wait and see if somebody were to ask me about it. But for me, I went ahead and ordered it because, I'm confident that they'll get it to where it needs to be. Yep, I would also buy a food fight because it's a beautiful cab. John He has an obsession with Street Fighter like One Up does with Pac-Man. Look, John D has a past with Capcom and certainly with fighting games, but I don't think there's a single other IP in the arcade space that Capcom owns that comes anywhere close to Street Fighter. So just put yourself in the business side. So that's where I approach these things. If you're going to launch a new company and you need to make sure it works, that it's a home run out of the gate, you're going to go with a company that will take a risk on you, Capcom, because John knows the people there. They're willing to take a risk on John so John can prove himself again, right? I think he's already proven himself, but he has to prove himself again to a whole new group of people that he can not only work for a company and acquire licenses, but he can do that multiple times with different companies all on his own and produce products that sell massively, right? Arcade 1-Up sold 4 million cabs. John wants to sell probably 10 million cabs, right? He wants to blow Arcade 1-Up out of the water through his various relationships and competitors working together to produce the things we want. But for that to work, you have to hit a home run out of the gate. You can't release a cab that doesn't sell. That is a Killer Instinct Pro that takes 3 years to sell 500 cabs. You have to hit a home run out of the gate. And what title of Capcom is going to deliver you that? And that's clearly Street Fighter. So I can't for a second blame him for starting there. And I also can't blame anybody that's like, I wish they didn't start there, because we've seen a bunch of Street Fighters. I get it. Like, I get both sides of it. But as a business person, I think that's what's going to get enough mass appeal to really make this thing a home run. And if it hits a home run, then we can start probably seeing more risky things, and I don't want to call them risky, but less popular titles that can hit the mark and still sell. So this crosses multiple genres. It's not just home arcade that would be interested in this. It's the fighting community, which is quite frankly much bigger than the home arcade. You're going to be able to hook, you do tournaments on these. So you have opportunities for in-person events and streaming events. There's a lot of cross function here that widens the community of interest for this, the customer base for this beyond just home arcade. And so to me, it's a smart bet. It's a safe bet to be the marquee title of Street Fighter. But what we see in the future, I think, really is up for grabs. Nate UT says stores for games that use the same layout would be great. Don't need 1,000 games that play horribly. Give us that match whatever controls layout is available. Yeah, that's honestly, that's a desire of mine. That's one of the things I hope we see from Glenn's FU Buildacade is control decks designed specifically for the games. I know it comes with the control deck to rule them all with auto switching between 4 and 8-way gates and things like that. But what I want is if I want to play Pac-Man on Glenn's, I want a single stick in the middle, right? If I want to play Tron, I want a single Tron stick and a spinner. If I want to play a Centipede, right? I want the trackball and a button. I want the option of buying a bunch of different control decks that are designed specifically for certain games, right? And not one deck for every game, but these decks can get close to what those games are, and then you just have that one. So you want to play Marble Madness, you want to play Crystal Castles, you want to play Golden Tee, you want to play Centipede. You have one good, nice deck for that. You want to play the fighting games, you have the ones with the 6 to 8 buttons, and you can play all the fighting games. Give us something like that where we have those options, and I think it's a huge home run. And I get why you would include a one control deck to rule them all, so you don't have to buy those other control decks if you don't want to, but I want to, right? I want Glenn also to make a lot more money. So if he can sell all these different control decks that we can use that are kind of specific to the game, suddenly he's able to sell a lot more items and we get a lot more use out of our Buildacade. And he's making it so you can modularly change all this stuff out, which is just a lot of foresight. But I'm thinking beyond just a control deck with a flight yoke or a Star Wars yoke and a control deck with a steering wheel. I'm talking, I want them designed kind of similar to various game layouts so that we can flop them out. Exactly what Nate UT is talking about here. With John's thing. Charlie Chuck says, just sold my modded A1 Up food fight. Very cool. I don't think I've seen pictures of that, Charlie Chuck. You need to share those, even if you've already gotten rid of it. The way these are built will make them fun if enough third parties are willing to make art kits. Yeah, and everybody will. That won't even be a question. Odd but cool said, I'm suddenly leaning towards the FU. I'll wait and hear actual user reviews for Media 1-Up. Step says, I like the design the way the World Warrior already was when they showed it. Yep, a lot of people do. And I also am in that boat. But I wanted to see if presented options people switched because of what Mike B. Obviously, he does not like it. And so I wanted to see how widespread that was. So, we've been jibber jabbering about it for a while. Let me stop the poll here. And while I did not put in an E option of people who like it the way it was, it looks like of the 4 on the screen, the A version came in tops at 35%. And so I'm covering up half of the A version. So let's just do that. So again, that's more. And because I was covering up, who knows, like if people realize there was gravel at the bottom. But I would say that leans towards people liking the more of the pattern all over the cab, if not all the way down and no gravel at all, right? So that's interesting. Obviously, it was very mixed. 35, 36% isn't running away with it. And so maybe a better question would be to what Steph said and what Charlie Chuck said, is that do you really even want to change her at all, or would any of these similar designs work? And in which case you just stick with what you got, right? Because going back and risking pissing people off that have already ordered it probably isn't worth the risk unless it's like so one-sided and so abundantly clear that you need to make a change. And I don't think we're there based on what I just saw in this polls and what I've read in the chats here. So Jason says the Capcom Street Fighter button layout is one of the most often used when modding to a multicade. 100% true. Many Capcom games could work with this layout. Absolutely. And Adam is thinking steps for her support on that. Fire Island HD says Glenn still has a lot of things to figure out as far as getting it packed and shipped, but I'm confident he will figure it out. Yeah, I'm confident in both of these guys, Glenn and John, that both of them will figure out any challenging. Charlie Chuck says we are lobbying for full flat pack shipping. I'm with you, Charlie Chuck. That's going to be the cheapest alternative, I think, though there probably are other cost considerations for fat placking on the manufacturer side. I don't know. But it's certainly easier to get these things around if they're flat packed and we can bring them in. Like if I can bring a flat pack in, it's going to be a whole lot easier than bringing a whole built arcade in. So I hope Glenn's able to get that figured out, but we'll see. Step says, at games ain't going to make a good replica of anything. I wish I could disagree with you, Steps, but I do not. I do agree. I think you're right. You know, I think they could if they wanted to, but that's a different discussion for a different day. I just don't think they will. At Games customer support is the worst I've ever saw. Well, if you knew how they apparently ran their customer support, it wouldn't surprise you. You'd think it was surprisingly good for how they run their customer support. Very strange business model when it comes to that. So that's all I'll say about that. It's weird. You can ask Biggie D about it. And let's see. We're getting hyped again. Goofyfoot's in the house says that's an understatement. Fourth Horsemen, of course, talking about their customer support. And yeah, so all I'll say is that At Games gets the customer support that they pay for. That's all I'll leave at that. Step says, as long as they fix the input lag that the A1UP had, I am good. I'm here to support the Street Fighter player community. Yeah. And hopefully, again, with the Pi 5, with, as Jason talked about, no need for a lot of these encoder boards and things like that, that the lag is fixed. So let's hope, however they do online, that we get some of those features like spectate, we get the rollback we need to make a competitive online environment for those hardcore fans in the tournaments. For many of us, I think most of us don't really truly care about online play because we know we'd get waxed by the Street Fighter guys, but want this thing to be a success, so it needs to be rock solid online for those hardcores, right? And even those casuals who want to play online would still want it to work. I'm likely to wait for these to be available from retailers. I'm sure they will go on sale for $6.99 or less at some point and will be eligible for deals with Red Card, Target Circle, rewards. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to see Spreetail put these in those retailers, you obviously have opportunities there, right? So it may not be in retailer stores, but I think you'll definitely see from some articles we've read that you'll see Spreetail selling these through some of the big online retailers, including Target, Walmart, etc., which gives you the opportunity for your circle points, your rewards, gift cards that you may have, all that fun stuff. Of course, we know Spreetail offered discounts on their own. They also offered open box stuff through eBay, so people were able to save some money there buying open box versions of arcades. So who knows, right? You could see a lot of different things. Of course, right now he mentioned $6.99. That's the current pre-order price, which is $100 discount. So keep in mind that the regular MSRP on this is $7.99, so a little even more expensive. So who knows post pre-order if it, I assume they'll sell it for a while at that price, the $7.99, but I don't know. Right now we know it's $6.99 and $100 discount off MSRP. How not to play says, okay, can't afford to get hyped. I didn't know you had to pay to get hyped, but there you go. 50 plus votes. We're still holding strong. Yeah, Street Fighter market is oversaturated. Yeah, so if you're going to do it right, you got to do it better than everybody else so that you can still wade through it. But you're not wrong. There's a lot of Street Fighter, and Capcom is certainly dropping all these fighting collections all over the place, including the SNK versus Capcom upcoming collection, which is cool. I'm waiting for the GRS FU release, FU edition. That's a lot of FUs in there. The sad thing is, if this doesn't do well, the next iconic arcade might literally be a Pac-Man. God, I hope not. I hope not. I hope not. There's enough people making Pac-Man. So one of the other things, while we're talking Pac-Man, I was out at CES. I ran into DMAC, right? You guys all know DMAC, and let me just get back up here. You guys all know DMAC, right? From Arcade 1-Up fame, who left earlier this year, and he's shared with me that he's gone out, started his own PR firm, and he's currently working with My Arcade and Iconic Arcade doing PR. So very cool to see him do that. I asked him, hey, when are you going to get My Arcade to make a full-size arcade cap, considering they have all these licenses? And said something he's working on. So could we see a My Arcade full-size arcade in the future? Who knows? But Lord knows they have a lot of agreements already with a lot of arcade publishers. So that would be super, super cool. Devastator Omega says the inevitable Pi 6 and also enough room inside to put a beefy custom PC inside there. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing the Pi platform I think might provide is easy upgrade. You know, I don't know how they plan to deliver the OS for this, the iconic arcade cab, but if it lives on an SD card, maybe you can just swap it out, right? Drop a Pi 6 in there, put the SD card in that, and you're off to the races. Maybe it needs some sort of update to work. I don't know, but it certainly seems to be like it might be future proof when you have a Pi at the core, but we'll have to see, right? Those are all guesses. It's going to be obviously up to modders and things like that, but who knows what the company itself will support coming out. Glenn's product will be the product of 2025. Fake coin store killed it. Yeah. So again, the coin door that is on there right now is not going to be the one that is released. I don't think you'll see a real coin door at that price, but you might see a better looking, at least fake one. Obviously, there's a lot of fake ones in the home arcade, very few fully functional ones. But there are companies like X Arcade that sell fully functional coin doors for, I think it's what, $60 that you can drop into any one of these. So again, for the modders out there, X Arcade does make a really cool just drop in coin door that works as a, can easily be wired up to the player one buttons and go off you go. See here. Paul says art is subjective, which is 100% true. That unless it's authentic, there's no other point of reference for agreement. Yeah, everybody's going to like what they like, and nobody's right or wrong. Even on the case of original or recreation, right? Like a lot of us want the original look and feel. We want those replicas, but at the same time, if you're able to capture that essence, like that was what I didn't expect in this, right? When Arcade 1-Up or some of these other companies released a non-authentic art package, it was nowhere near the original. So it didn't have any nostalgic vibes. What I like about what Iconic Arcade has done here is it's still using the original art. It's just using it in a different way. And Lord knows these Capcom cabs are always kind of plain anyway, all black with a little poster. And so there's something to say for how great like the HS5 from Arcade 1-Up looks because it is truly original. But there's also something to say for how the Iconic has captured the original in still a dynamic look. So you're getting kind of that best of both worlds. It's both original and nostalgic at the same time, which I have to give them a hat tip. That's something, I don't think anybody thought of really doing. That's why you get these people that don't go with the original doing this really wild art, like the Shinku Hadouken edition and all those other ones that have come out from Arcade 1-Up or other people. They tend to just go completely off into something that's not even close. And so this is this weird gray area that I think actually like surprised me at how much I liked it. Iconic Arcade also now has licenses, through John, but might produce future products that have no John D influence. Yeah, absolutely. They're their own company. They're obviously consulting with Media 1-Up. And I think again, the success of this product, speaks a lot towards the future of how that relationship builds and grows, right? If they see good success, I think they'll listen to him more and more. Certainly, they've listened quite a bit. If you think about what about the current Iconic Arcade cabs, how thin they are, how they do their, emulation and stuff, like you have clearly them listening at this stage. And so, it's John's dream. He's living his dream. And I hope he has success, just like I hope Glenn living his dream he has tons of success. Because, at the end of the day, we want all these guys to succeed. We want them all to be successful because if they're successful, that means we get more fun toys to play with, more games to play. And I think that's great. I mean, there are a million ways to play these games, but we in this community have chosen to play them in our home arcades. And so their success is our success, I guess, even though we don't get any money for it, right? We just get to play the games. Unless you're a modder like G.I. Joe and all these guys that are making their own stuff. That's pretty impressive. Do we know when we'll see a working UI? It's important for my decision. I do not know, but I would imagine hopefully sooner rather than later. And it should be an important part of anyone's decision. So definitely recommend, like I said, if you were asking me, I would recommend you wait till you see these things. That's where I would be on a recommendation front right now, is wait to see till these things that have been promised, you can see them. And I would say that about any company, right? Like, let's wait till we see, a final production unit from Glenn. Let's wait till we see some of these things working from At Games and some of these other companies, right? Like, take a lesson from us that pre-ordered the 4KP and had to deal with that lag for damn near a year. Like, it's not always good to be right out of the gate an early adopter. When you do that, you deal with the problems, you deal with that mess. So wait till you're comfortable making that, you've seen what you want to see before you pull that trigger. I see Soul Calibur and Tekken cabs being more of a possibility than ever before. Yeah, well, we know John was in Japan talking to Namco. He posted that stuff online, and so hopefully he was able to get some sort of a deal with Namco, because that could mean Tekken, right? If there's a Soul Calibur cab, for the love of God, include the arcade version of Soul Calibur 3. That game is legit. Is there anything you can share with the Bobby Vu project? So, for those of you who know, I believe there have been some public things dropped, or at least there was definitely some stuff dropped in other streams about it, right? It's a cocktail table. We know that. Flip up screen. So it was very exciting. I'll say I've found out since then that there is maybe one other company that's has made a similar cocktail table with a pop-up screen like that. It's very, very expensive. So we'll see where this one goes, but it was certainly exciting. It is not a product that's around the corner. It's something that he built up to see what people thought and got impressions of. I thought it was super cool. I thought it was pretty ingenious to have this kind of cocktail table slash arcade thing. So can't wait to be able to re-release the footage. So for those of you who missed it, because it's really pretty damn cool. Um, and it's something I can see easily going into a teenager's room, or even if you're a cocktail fan, having it and then having some versatility to do other things there. It's pretty cool. It's like a Swiss Army knife of arcades. I don't know how to describe it. But Bobby Vu does what he does. The to die for customs and stuff. He's tricked that thing out. It looks so cool. I don't need truly full size. Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I need lightweight. I've said this probably till I'm blue in the face, real arcades years ago. It gets to be a lot. It's not just the maintenance side of it. That's one thing. Is these things get older and older, it gets harder and harder to work on them, but they're damn heavy. And you're constantly having to call people for help, or you have to buy expensive dollies that can move these things up and down stairs, move them around. They were fun to own. If you live in a dry part of the country where you don't have a lot of climate difference, maybe California, where you can keep these things in a garage, maybe I'd have a different opinion. But for me, in the middle of the country where I'm dealing with humidity, I'm dealing with constant changes in weather conditions, I just, my back can't take it. My space can't take it. Yeah, so I've done that. I've lived that life, and I had basically gotten out of arcades until really Arcade 1-Up. But it was like, hey, this kind of captures the feeling, but they're these smaller things that I can just grab myself and move around, and they don't take up a ton of room. And if I want to put them away, I can take them apart and put them away for a while. It really kind of was the best of both worlds for me. So XLs are probably that 9910 scales, probably as big as I ever really want to get again. Obviously making the exception for one multicade, and that's probably being Glenn. I'm not going to put in some giant ass, a whole bunch of giant ass full size stuff. It's just too much of a pain in the ass, right? uh, Moving them, transporting them back and forth. CRT goes out on them. Just a lot of work. All you have to do is watch 19K Fox content to see how often his go down, and he has to go send it off somewhere or get a big part in to fix it. Whether that's been Crazy Taxi or Star Wars Arcade or, a variety of those. It's a constant thing, and that's a headache I don't want anymore. I just want to flip them on, play them, flip them off. Wheeze34 says, James, it would be great if they make the cabs at least 3 inches higher to 70 inches for us over 6 feet. So I believe the iconic arcade says 67 inches, but I don't know if that's 100% right. Because I'm 5'11" and a half ish, right? And the top of maybe that is the top of the marquee, the very top of the cab is right at my eye height. So, and that's with wearing shoes. So a couple inches under 70. So that's probably right. 67 inches, probably right at where it was. But I can tell you, like, it was no view problems, nothing. It's definitely taller than all my other Arcade 1-Ups at game stuff. It felt like I was playing on a full size, even though it wasn't a full size. And I think I heard Fox obviously is taller than me. I think he said he had no lines of obstruction or anything like that. So, item that Shinobi Mini Arcade is embarrassing by my arcade. Glenn's, I believe, does that. I must have missed what that was, but unless you're talking about the height, because yeah, it's very tall, right? Um, but people give the IKEA furniture aspect of Arcade One Up shit. But I'll tell you that's the piece that I actually like. Call me dumb. I like putting them together. It's kind of fun, even though it's super simple. Uh, I enjoy the one of the fun things before you get to play the games is get to putting the cab together. But again, it's that half inch of whatever particle board or whatever they're using keeps it super light, and that's what I care about most. Honestly, more than size, it's the lightness. Um, so if you can keep it, 120, 130 pounds or less, it makes it so I can move it around a lot easier. And it's not that big a deal. Fourth Horseman says, do you like the angle of the Street Fighter control deck? No, it's too steep. Um, that's certainly some feedback we've provided and they plan on fixing. So they're looking at a few different ways of doing that, whether that's moving the monitor back a bit more or extending the front out more. By making the control deck a little longer, you can drop that angle down. Right now, it's just a little too steep. It's gotta come down just a little bit, because that will help with the motions. Like you guys know how to play this game, right? You need to make certain moves, and when that deck is too angled, it's harder to hit the moves exactly the way you need it. So I think they recognize that it's too steep, and that is something on their list that they plan on fixing. So look for that to be adjusted because it's a known issue. Let's see. Hopefully, this coin space is a good fit for the X Arcade coin door. I bought a bunch of those. Yeah, I would imagine. I think was it Retro 530s coin doors? What's sitting in them now? I believe that's what B said. I didn't ask John. John, when I was there, did tell me they were going to change those coin doors. That those were just in there in the prototype. That they would be different. But I didn't ask like who they plan on going with and what they plan exactly on doing. So shame on me for not drilling in too much on that. But for me, the coin door has always been one of those things. I want one, but I don't care if it lights up. I don't care if it functions. Honestly, the way they're implemented in Arcade One Up, I'm not a fan of at all because uh, if you guys have seen an arcade, there are two coin doors, not just one. You get the one where you put the coins in, and then you have the bucket door. And for some reason, everybody's just fine with the top piece, but really it should be that whole unit, right? You should have both doors. That's what looks right. And so I've always thought these faux coin doors don't look right to begin with because they don't have the bucket door. And so if I were to make a recommendation to John, it would be put the bucket door on there, make it actually look like an arcade coin door. If it's not going to function, at least make it look right. Don't give us just the top one. Give us the bucket door. But that's just me. I know it's nitpicky, but that's where I am. I don't think the other ones look all that much more realistic just because you put like the look of a coin door on there. It's still missing half of it. Yeah, I don't think a lack of a faux coin door ever lost a sale. Because media will take over the home arcade market if these cabs go over well. So again, this will be great. Like working with lots of companies, we could see a lot of competition in space. Certainly, all eyes are on Arcade One Up now, right? Like, here's your former guys working with a competitor, delivering, what is a very attractive offering. Sorry, I left my TV on because I was watching the football game, and now it turned off. So the are they going to respond or just announce a Pac-Man 45th anniversary and call it a day? You know, I think the next few months, really probably in the next 60 days, I mean, Arcade One Up's got to come out with some sort of announcement, or in my opinion, they've lost it before the war even started. See, I still don't understand how Rexer can show my arcade, but hate on Arcade One Up. No offense, Rexer. Hey, like people like what they like, and I realize he shits on Arcade One Up and likes my arcade. I'm not a big fan of my arcade, but I will say some of the stuff that they showed off is more intriguing. Those big ass handhelds, some of the the retro console if you can get a good controller on there. But I'm not going to disparage anybody for liking what they like or hating what they hate. Some of that I imagine is personal, between less about him hating Arcade 1-Up and more about him hating people that are associated with Arcade 1-Up. Because by God, you can go back in his library and watch videos from back in the day where he was praising Arcade 1-Up. I remember him talking about Arcade 1-Up pinball and how he liked all the different pinballs that Arcade 1-Up released. So like you can go back and watch him praise that stuff, and at some point along the way, something rubbed him the wrong way, and he changed his opinion. Whatever, he can like what he likes, dislike what he likes, and we can all, wonder why one and not the other. Everybody's going to have their own opinions. It'd just be great if it was all about the games and those opinions and not about people. That's all I'll say to that. Like, I don't know why we care about individual people, like want to spend our time, and I'm not just saying him, other people in this space, talking about other creators and other people as opposed to just focusing on the games and the products and why we all got into this to begin with. That's the fun shit. Like, I don't care about talking about all this other nonsense. Let's see here. Steve Sale, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Just got home to catch the rest of your show. Appreciate that. Meatball Saucy is in the house. Guys, check out his channel. He does a lot of cool stuff with virtual pinball and other things, like how to set up a lot of different things. So it's pretty cool to go check that out if you got time. He doesn't really care if you do, but I think you should go do it anyway. Did you see anything other than home arcade products that piqued your interest? A great question. Can always count on Meatball for these like deep questions. So I mentioned the thing earlier that I thought was really cool with whatever that space alien gel was that interacted with electromagnets. But there were some very other interesting products. I wouldn't exactly say they piqued my interest, but there was a section of the show that was, I would say, more adult themed devices, if you know what I mean. And they were doing giveaways, free samples. Thought that was pretty interesting. Not something I expected. There were some really cool vehicles. So there was this van. I call it a space age van, I guess. And it had a drone helicopter in it. So you would basically pack up your van, drive up into the mountains, pull your drone helicopter out and be able to fly around. And then your van kind of doubles as like an RV or a camping thing. It was really pretty interesting. I don't know the feasibility of it. I also saw another drone that was like a motorcycle. So you drive your motorcycle up into it, and now you can fly around with the quad rotor system. As a content creator, man, what was this thing called? I can't remember off the top of my head because it gets advertised to me now all the time. But I almost immediately wanted this thing. And essentially, it's a drone video camera, and it uses AI to track you, recognize your face, follow you around. They were marketing towards like snow skiers, an outdoor, like an action camera kind of thing. But I was just thinking about it from a standpoint of a content creator and like doing things like CES, right? I went out to CES pretty much by myself. I don't have a crew. Like there's all these other, I saw Linus Tech Tips out there and his team. Saw a bunch of these other content creators where they have like, cameramen and mic people, boom mics, all these huge setups. Like one person had like 3 cameras and boom mics and key grips running around with them. It was a whole giant like TV production for somebody's small YouTube channel. Well, I guess it wasn't small if they got that big of a team, but it would be certainly handy to have a camera person. But if you you don't have one, you can't bring it with you. How cool would it be to have this AI drone that just basically flies out in front of you and that can track you? And so you can go around and talk and demo various things with you, being able to have your hands free and being able to have the AI frame the shot the way you want. And it's silently flying there while you're doing all this stuff. I can't wait for like DJI or somebody to make that. Like one of the things I use when I'm out on site doing filming or out on location is the DJI Pocket Osmo Pocket 3 because it's really tiny, shoots in 4K, 120 frames per second. It flips forward, backwards. It's got a full gimbal built into it. It can do vertical, it can do horizontal. It does all these different things. Has the built-in wireless mic capabilities with the DJI mics and stuff. It's really awesome, right? And you can color tone it and everything because it shoots in full log, which is, you guys know what that is. You know that means something. If you don't, who cares? But it's really impressive, and it literally fits in your pocket. It has different lenses you can use for different shots. If they built it, because they also make tons of drones, if they built something exactly like that, I would buy it day one because I know what the quality would be and that its tracking capabilities and things it can do would work so easy. And I was just looking at what that company was producing. I thought this thing is amazing. And watching they let us customers or media or whoever demo it, that would sync it up to us. We could run around, move around, all different kinds of crazy. And that camera is following us, turning when it needs to, dipping up, going down. Like it was really cool. As a content creator, I thought that was the neatest thing. Uh, there was companies giving away skateboards for some reason. There was a backpack company that gives away skateboards. So I went and got a free skateboard. Um, I got some stuff to give away. I made a lot of contacts for other gaming devices. I think that'll be pretty interesting to do. Only things that I was interested in, not just a bunch of junk. Things that I thought had a unique aspect that people that watch me might be interested in. But yeah, I mean, it's CES, so you get to see all this future stuff, like the 163-inch mini LED displays that just look crazy good in person, canvas TVs, the clear TVs. Like LG had this insane display that was like, I don't know, each panel was 60 grand and there was probably 200 panels. And it was like this crazy ass chandelier light show thing where sometimes you could see through it, sometimes you couldn't, sometimes it was in the middle transparency. It's just insanely cool looking. So there was a lot of really neat displays and things. And then there was a lot of stuff that you're like, man, why did you even pay to come out here? like, like, like people just making random cables and just all kinds of weird stuff that it's just like they're clearly trying to make, I guess, retail connections to try to get their gadgets in retail. But it seems like, man, you're paying a lot of money to be at CES. Hopefully it does well for you. Um, but of the big things, the surprising things, there was a lot of cool stuff from robots to holograms to new kind of VR stuff, augmented reality stuff, a lot of things people have been playing with for years. So we'll see how much of that comes to fruition. Obviously, the spoon thing, that's an interesting idea, right? Make America healthy again, as they say. You know, the idea that you can buy this spoon that adds salt, uses electricity to add salt flavoring as you're eating, so you don't have to salt your food anymore, which means you're not actually eating salt ever. So for those that eat too much salt, probably like myself, you can cut it out entirely, but not lose that salt flavor. It's pretty intriguing. Um, Obviously, I shared in my video how people were so hyped about that there was just a massive crowd around that booth the entire time, both during Unveiled and during the show itself. So pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I assume that's about Rex 3H. John Dean wants to have an entertaining show, and now he will switch to Media One Up. Yeah, whatever. Let's see here. The original art sucked in the 90s. They didn't concentrate on the art as much as they did in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, and Capcom, right? Capcom didn't design their own cabs. They used dynamos, which were generic cabs that anybody could go buy. They were probably the most recognized users of dynamo. But you'll see Double Dragon was in a dynamo, Akari Warriors is in a dynamo. You'll see lots of companies use the dynamo cabs, not just Capcom. And Capcom was notoriously cheap in their kits. Here's a marquee, here's some control panel art, and you get two little posters to smack on the side. And that's what you got. They didn't do full side artwork. They didn't do any of that for most of their games. And it was more about keeping the cost down, I think, more than anything. And making it easier for creators or arcade operators to get new stuff out. James, please take a poll on who is willing to pay $700 for this arcade. There are plenty of polls out there of people doing that, so I'll probably spare everybody that. I think you're going to see the fact that this is the first real new thing in a long time. I think you're going to see more than normally would be interested in this. Going $6.99 is kind of right along the price point of what you saw from some of the arcade one-up stuff, right? Obviously, the KI Pro was 1,000, but you've got the the only reason that Pac-Man XL was $5.99 was because it was through Costco. The Shack Jam was $6.99. I don't know what Golden TXL was, but I believe it was right around the same price. It's something I never looked into because I didn't really care. But there you go. Unshunned. Yes, so I'm still shunned for until he posts here. Don't buy it till you see the UI. Unshunned. Exactly. That's my recommendation is, wait till you see it to buy it. What I do is not what I recommend for you. If John releases a Soul Calibur cab, my marriage is screwed. And what a beautiful cab he did, guys. If you haven't seen that, I'm sure most of you have, but definitely go look that up because it is a beautiful Soul Calibur cab. Deal with Namco could be a lot of good, but also a lot of bad if Iconic needs to move mash units. Yeah, you got to remember, I think the volume that Iconic is looking at is not the volume Arcade 1-Up is looking at. Arcade 1-Up, how do we say this, right? Because obviously Iconic ultimately has a big corporation behind them. Two companies removed, but at the same time, it's not like Arcade 1-Up. Arcade 1-Up has venture capital money at stake that that really forces their hand, right? Right now, they're being run by a bunch of venture capitalist investors trying to get their money back. So they're not being run by people who like home arcades or want to be in the home arcade business. Even though before, when they were run by people who liked arcades, they made poor decisions, quite frankly, really bad decisions. And I don't know who made the decisions. I don't care who made the decisions. But just because you got, say, like a $20 million investment from MidCap or whoever, like the idea that you would take several million of that per year and give it to the Miami Dolphins just to have I brag about having an arcade in an NFL stadium is some of the dumbest fucking business decisions I've ever heard of. You just don't piss money away like that, even if you think it was free and easy money. It's you just wasted it because it does nothing for your brand. Absolutely nothing. Nobody sees it. Nobody outside of Miami even knew you did it. Yeah, just a giant waste of money. Just flushing money down the toilet. Arcade 1-Up was doing. So yeah. And now it shows because now they are turning to factor loans to survive. So there you go. So if you ever do a company and you get a large investment, don't fucking piss it away on vanity shit like that. Because that's all that is. That's just somebody saying, haha, look what I did. Look what I can do. I have a bunch of money to throw away. Only they didn't really have the money to throw away. Now I Build-A-Cade, Street Fighter 2, Switch 2. My wallet is already eyeballing me. Indeed. Yeah, the Switch 2 news, man. CES was a wealth of Switch 2 leaks, wasn't it? Let's see. I had full size 2, everything 300 plus pounds. Yep, it's a pain in the ass. I don't know how far behind I am, so I'm going to speed up a little here. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Can I still use my Atari 800 XL? Nice. Nice. Hey James, what was your favorite My Arcade that you like? So, one of the things I didn't say, I'm a skeptic when it comes to My Arcade. Like, I think these cheap plastic things are a joke. I don't like them. Uh, keep hearing all this stuff about pole position, and I'm like, how in the hell can you play pole position with buttons and still shift and do all this stuff? Well, I'll eat my words. Like, I played it. I played it there. I got footage of me playing it, so look for that in my few upcoming My Arcade CES video. Obviously, I don't care a whole lot about My Arcade, or maybe prioritize that video footage, but I'll be goddamn if it doesn't play really well. So I think you've heard other people say it. I still didn't believe it because it's still this cheapy plastic thing. It's still overpriced at $50, but shit, it plays really well. It's like naturally, with with your two fingers, you can control the gas and the brake. And then with your thumb, you can shift up and down, high, low, and then you're steering with your other thumb. It actually is naturally plays natural. It doesn't oversteer. That was one of the things I was concerned with using that tiny little wheel. That would be really easy to oversteer one way or the other. It doesn't. It steers great. It actually plays really well. So if you're a pole position fan and you don't really care about a big one and you just want your fix, yeah, I mean it's there. Like I said, I still think it's probably $30 more expensive than it should be, but man, it really worked really well. I'll also say I played the Miss Pac-Man, which is one that's been out a while. It too played really well. So I don't know. I've never actually owned a My Arcade or play a My Arcade. They look like cheap junk to me, but they actually do play decently when they've got the right ROM on them. They play okay. They're very playable. Uh, Still not for me, not my cup of tea. Never gonna own one of those now. Might buy one at the $5 store when they're being cleared out and give it to one of my kids or something. They'd enjoy it, but um, what interests me about My Arcade is the consoles, and I think some of their handhelds. I'll probably I probably will buy the Game Station Retro Go or whatever it's called, the handheld. It's got a nice big screen. I think, with the 200 games on it, I think it's worth like taking the plunge, provided it's not like $200 or something. If they can hit the 999 price point, 99.99, basically $100 or less, I'll be in. If it's 200, no. I've got many other handhelds I can play that stuff on. But I think it's better than I anticipated on some of those. So, uh, you know, I have a wait and see attitude with that one. None of them that you could play. The Atari one was working, so you could take a look at the Atari one if you guys want to see that. Gen X Grown Up has a decent video of the UI and things on the Atari, and I think you'll see the same UI on the Game Station Retro. But again, the game on that stuff doesn't seem to be ready for prime time yet. So, will it come out this year or be another year away? That has yet to be seen. I think you're looking at October at the earliest. Games are what I care about, indeed. Let's see. Nobody has one until they get Nintendo. Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But you never know. Like somebody's got to figure out how to get Nintendo, right? Like, yeah, somebody needs to find somebody that's just really good friends with, like, you know, God dang it, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Uh, Creator of Mario and Donkey Kong. I can't believe I can't think of his name right now. Um, but and just kind of like whisper in his ear because if he says do it, Nintendo will do it. Um, and Jason, yeah, check out the sauciest of meatballs. Let's see. Handheld PC scene deck space is heating up. Yeah, everybody and their brother is making a PC handheld. Yeah, I don't know that that's a good thing, honestly. If there are too many out there, that creates saturation. And I know people like theirs, but it really, you guys remember when mini laptops were a thing? What did they call them? Like They weren't notebooks, but they were like there was some kind of book. But they were all those mini laptops that were like this big, had the touchpad and the keyboard on it. They were all the rage for a couple of years. Everybody made one, right? Oh, look how small this is. You can just kind of carry it in your, little kind of bag. It fits in a purse, like it's a little tiny thing. And everybody rushed out and made them, and everybody had one. And they were basically long term crap. And so, all these companies, I know Copy and the Switch, they've had success. Steam Deck had success. The ROG has its success, and it'll be interesting to see like how that shakes out, right? Is everybody going to buy like four of these? Are you going to buy a Switch? Are you going to buy the Xbox one when it comes out? Do you have a PlayStation Portal and the future PlayStation Vita one that's been leaked? Like, are you going to buy like four of these? Are you going to have a PC one, a Nintendo one, an Xbox one, and a Sony one? Like, that seems weird to me. Like, that's a lot. Um, and anybody can come along and make a PC one. So the competition there is so crazy. Like, you're constantly like, do you want to upgrade to buy a new one every 2 years? Like, at least with the Nintendo stuff, like you're waiting 7 years before you have to upgrade it. But like, yeah, I don't know what to think. It's a space I've stayed out of now. I know it's got its fans a lot in this community, and I don't discount it. I just can't help but feel it's some sort of fad that is going to fade away, but maybe it won't. Maybe it's here to stay. Let's see. That page has no content. Don't know what page we are talking about, but it has no content. Claire Diaz says, we know that 19K Foxconn console kits were put the cabinet together where you left out from Media One Up Illuminati's no. So that was all a joke. Like, I went, I was at the NVIDIA keynote while they were putting together the cab. I wanted to go to the NVIDIA thing. It's the first time I've been to CES. I was there as a media guest at CES, so I wanted to do the things because I had never been. So I spent a lot of time at the con. I went over officially, unofficial, went with me. Angelo P was there. We all went and took a look at it, shot a lot of footage. Bobby demoed his stuff. John asked me to come back. I was out at the con, but I was still filming stuff and talking to some other companies. And since I was flying out that same night, I just didn't go back over there. So I had to catch a flight at 1 a.m. and I wanted to try to take a nap, however, unsuccessfully before I got on that flight. But I shot a crap ton of footage. Things that I, may or may not actually relate to this channel at all, but I shot a lot, talked to a lot of companies, a lot of fun things. Like one of the more interesting things is this company that has I don't know how else to call it. It's sort of like I'm sure it has a real name, but it's basically like a mixer for video, so you can take in up to 4 camera feeds at once. Now I have a multiple capture card thing in my computer where I can have my computer do this stuff, but it was a standalone device that then goes into a computer. So it does all the processing on that device. I can set the camera layouts, the angles of the stream, and then it steps it down into one HD 60, or they have a 4K one coming out. Into one feed into the camera, which would still allow me to have even more cameras through my capture cards. I thought that was really cool. And how did they demo that device? Well, they demoed it on an arcade 1-up and a Stern pinball machine. So they had 2 different devices they were showing off, and they used each of those. And so I thought the setups they had were really cool for capturing gameplay, for capturing the control stick, the player, the environment, and how their devices combined those so that you can then feed them into OBS or StreamYard or wherever, and made it super easy to do. Was really impressive. And I thought just to share their rigs and how they set it up alone would be of interest to a lot of people in this space. And so I've been talking with them, and Hopefully can get something going with them. So beyond what I shot, have an opportunity to show you some of the other things that they're working on. A lot of it is AI powered, so it is able to do a lot more than just like, hey, use this layout and do this. So pretty cool stuff, and I'm interested to see how it evolves. Um, but they did a lot of, I think, interesting ways in how they rigged stuff up for that very purpose. And I think, as a content creator, somebody that likes to play games and would like it to be much easier to share gameplay, it was pretty damn cool. Uh, but Jason is a fast growing YouTube channel. If you guys haven't been over to Jason Lily Alien's YouTube page and give him a sub, definitely give him a sub so he doesn't have to buy his next 50 subs. Um, Step says, I will tell you though, Costco sold of all those Miss Pac-Man pub tables and didn't need to mark them down except the displays. Same with Gold Tea. Yep. Costco's selling them. And from some of the conversations I had, is Costco is actively pursuing other companies to make arcade products because they can't get enough of them. They want more. And that's why I think you saw the Stern pinball machine come into um, Costco, and it makes you wonder why Arcade One Up isn't fulfilling that need and why they're going to other companies to find more people to produce arcades to sell in Costco. It sounds like it's a line of product that Costco wants to make a permanent fixture in their stores. And for some reason, Arcade One Up is not doing that. So, very interesting. Makes you wonder if that one exclusive XL per year is actually Costco's request or maybe Arcade One Up's request. Uh, One cab 7 months away. Don't get too excited. Not sure if we're talking about John or what. John's is 5 to 6 months away, and that's just from Iconic. So I don't know if that's who Fourth Horseman is talking about, because there's obviously is shared by Unico. They are Media One Up and Unico are also doing something that is coming out later this year. But right now, it's all about Iconic's release. Yes, Danny, I'm way far behind in chat. MG here says, thanks, James. Uh, in the cornercade, I didn't ask you, Muppet. That's awesome. Well, where's the animus coming from? I don't know what we're talking about or who we're talking about, but I like the use of animus. Netbook. Yes, thank you, Fox. They're netbooks. So I am way far behind. God, I could not remember the names of those things, but everybody had to have one. I would pay $700 for Tekken because that would be new and exciting. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think a lot of people would. I just, me personally, I also think Street Fighter has more mass appeal, but there you go. MG says at the Bunny Ranch. Nope. James doesn't hate everything. Isn't that the shtick? Right? That's the shtick, right? I'm critical of things, so therefore I must hate them all. Anyone know what happened to Unico being at CES? They were, Steve, the IT guy. I showed Neocade and talked a little bit about what Unico had there earlier in the stream. So if you missed that, check that on replay. It, is what it is. Interesting, but I wouldn't say nothing super excited. It's along the lines of what we've seen recently from them with the handhelds, the pocket, things like that. Any idea when the Midway license expires for Arcade One Up? Not soon enough. KFB, not soon enough. Holy shit, he's 15 minutes behind. I'm trying. There, look, I'm all the way caught up. Look, this is the newest one. I honestly wonder if Arcade One Up still has the NFL license. I think Blitz is finally sold out. I don't know. Well, clearly something happened there because they haven't reproduced any. But certainly they could take advantage of Blitzmas and move more cabs if they did it in a smart way. But I'm guessing they did not. But they've been in violation or something. Obviously, it's a Midway game, but it comes down to whether they fulfilled the NFL license, and it's probably just way too expensive for them to have that option at this point. He caught up skipping all of my chats. Well, that's what I do, MG. Like, I know if your name is on there, I can just blow right past them. All right. So we're damn near over 2 hours. So I'm not going to keep belaboring this. Said I would have sold that license to Blitz to a company that could release it on consoles for $10 and made money that way. Well, I'll tell you what I would have done as a football fan, as a fan of Blitz. I would not have released a crap ton of them. I would have released it when it was ready. And if that meant waiting another year, I would have waited another year. I would release them in July. And by October, you would no longer be able to get them. Like what was out there would be out there. I wouldn't let companies like Walmart order 10 million of the damn things. And then I would make them scarce. And then next July, I would come back out with them. So when all the hype is and all the positivity and hope for the season is alive and well, and then sell more of them to people. And maybe I would rotate that skin to have different teams on it every year. And then I would sell it like hotcakes over and over and over and over, just like they do with NBA Jam. But when you dump it and Nintendo buys 10,000 billion of them, or not Nintendo, I wish Nintendo bought some. Walmart buys 10,000 billion of them, Sam's Club. And when they don't sell in 2 weeks, drops them to $200, you pretty much killed the whole line and it was all over. Blitz is by far my favorite arcade one-up cab that's come out. It gets played the most play. I don't think it's the most realistic, but it gets the most play out of all of them. Just because I love football and I love Blitz, and I didn't need late hits. Don't really care about late hits. It was all about playing the goofy arcade football for me, and it's a ton of damn fun. And I wish they had success with it because I think it's a game that could have outsold NBA Jam in the long run, though NBA Jam is the iconic arcade sports title. But I think the power of the NFL could have pushed them well above that in sales. The problem was they thought they could do it all at once, and it killed them. Released it too late in the season, released it unfinished, got all that negative publicity, hired too many NFL celebrities to push it, which you didn't need. NFL has its own, it comes with all the NFL publicity you need. You don't need to hire Dan Marino and, you know, Deion Sanders and I'm drawing a blank on the Viking guy's name, but you didn't need all that. But whatever, they did it. They spent the money, again, spending money that they didn't need to spend because that game has its own staying power. But hey, whatever. It killed Arcade One Up essentially. So there you go. But, yes, the fridge. That was definitely the fridge advertising it. Yeah, it's exactly. And it's not like I thought of that. That's exactly what Madden does, right? Madden's not stupid. They know when to sell Madden every year. It sells for $70, right? And then it's by November, when the season is essentially over for most teams, you can buy it for 25 or $30. And then by the time the next season starts, it's $10. And so, but the new one's 70. And guess what? Everybody runs out and buys the new one. And they could have done that every single year, grabbing new people, circulating between teams. Look, the one reason I pre-ordered this, I said before, I'm a huge Broncos fan. Terrell Davis was right on the side, even though it wasn't arcade accurate artwork, which I think the arcade accurate artwork on Blitz sucks anyway. But it had Terrell Davis on. I was like, I'm owning this because I love Blitz, and it's got my guy on the side, like my favorite. One of my favorite, obviously Elway's my favorite player, but my second favorite player of all time is on the side of the cab. Like Terrell Davis is the shit, and he got robbed. He is like the best. And, Brian Greasy ruined him with that interception. But Terrell Davis is awesome, and I had to have that thing. I wanted Terrell Davis in my arcade staring at me all the time. Like, and so, I can imagine other players, other fans of other teams would love to have one with their favorite player on the side and add to their arcade. And you could just cycle through that every year, man, just having different teams spotlighted on the side, and people would buy it. Like, even though the games on the inside are exactly the same. I used to take my car to Elway Ford in Denver. Well, there you go. That's awesome, Bobby Broadway. Yeah, I mean that was some of the secret to his success in his later years, right? He would defer his salary because he made so much more on his car dealerships than he ever did playing football. And so he's just like, I won't take a salary. Like, pay all the players that we need to win these championships. Don't pay me. And and Denver got in trouble for that a few years later, but fuck, it worked. Um, I think Slim Shady Blitz is coming for one up. I feel it. I don't think so, but God, you never know. And Bobby's an Avalanche fan, so hockey it is. I think mine has Marino on it. Yeah, they each side has 3 players, so I think there's what it's like Favre, is it Bettis and Terrell, and then on the one side is Marino and whoever the other 2. Chris Carter was the name I was trying to think of before on the Vikings. He's not on the cab. Is it Emmitt Smith? Who's the other 2 on there? I don't remember. Who cares? But three NFL legends on each side. I think that's why they called it Blitz Legends or whatever. But each their own. But anyway, so that's that. I didn't get a whole lot of questions, or I was so far behind in chat I missed a lot of them. So I apologize for that. Appreciate you guys hanging out on another Saturday night. I know there's lots of fun streams going on. As you know, we're all VR channels now, so I don't know if you saw my secret hints in the background of what may be coming up. I always like to hide some stuff back there for you guys. So be aware, that's what I do. I hide things in thumbnails. I hide things in the background, hinting on what's to come. So I'm excited about diving into more VR stuff with Brooklyn Menace, the king of VR, and all the other guys playing. It's really is a shitload of fun playing some of these games. Had VR headsets for a while, and none of the games ever really intrigued me until this MetaQuest 3 stuff and the multiplayer, and that VR gaming is actually games now instead of tech demos. And so it's been a lot of fun to actually get into some good stuff and hang out with everybody. So yeah, it's a blast. So if you like playing games and you have a headset, come hang out with us. We play a lot. I've been gone for a while, so I haven't played a ton, but I know Brooklyn's in there all the time playing games, and he wants everybody to play VR, and it's just fun to hang out with other people, other creators, other fans of creators, people who watch these channels and just play goofy ass, VR games, whether that's, walkabout golf, which is something anybody can sit down and play. I know he's playing cornhole tonight, or did. I don't know if they're still playing. There's bowling. Of course, we have these virtual arcades that are out and coming out where you'll be able to go into everybody's arcade and play arcade games with them. How cool will that be when we can all hang out? We can do these shows in an arcade, just all hanging out in a virtual arcade and playing each other and talking shit and everything else. I think it'll be a blast where VR goes in the next couple years for all this stuff. So definitely come check that shit out. KFB is a big VR guy. It is a ton of fun. So yeah, the more these arcade games, these virtual arcades come along, the more fun I think it'll be, where we can all hang out in the metaverse. I hate saying that. It's so goofy. But anyway, thanks again, everybody, for dropping by. Can't wait to see what's coming down the pipe and all that fun stuff from not only Media One Up and Glenn's retro show with the FU edition, but what we will see from Unico, and hopefully Basic Fun maybe gets somewhere with theirs. Maybe we can get My Arcade convinced to do something, and we go from having basically one company creating home arcade recreations to like 5 or 6, and it rains the games we want down from wherever. But alrighty, guys, until next time. I got to quit all these like Midwest goodbyes where I ramble on and on and on and on and on. So until next time, have fun. And now have